my question to the men is, if men feel like that they want to reach a certain level of success or make a certain amount of money financially, then what is considered that amount of money for a man to feel like, okay, I'm ready to enter into a marriage to be able to provide for a family? Like, what is that income? Or is that going to be based off of where you live, or just, I'm really trying to understand from a man's standpoint, like what makes you financially ready for marriage?
So, Tam, I don't even know if it's a number that we can say across the board. I think it's more about stability, right? How well are you making a life for yourself, right? I mean, if you're bouncing from job to job, if if your credit is failing, right? If that 5-year plan or lack thereof isn't panning out, if you don't have anybody to hold you accountable, if you kind of just out here flying out the seat of your pants, how are you going to provide stability for somebody else? We know more than anybody where we're at, right? And so you know what I mean? Your life could be in shambles, and you just walking around every day putting on for the world like you got it all together. They know, and you got to trust that they know. You know what I mean? And before you get married, he really doesn't owe you his his private information, such as how
Well,
much you have in your savings, or are you planning a job change? Or he doesn't really. If he wants to tell you, he can, but ultimately he's feeling you out and you're feeling him out. And the early stages of the dating process may be a general overview of where we're at, but he may not tell you, oh my God, I'm up to my ears in debt. Like, I don't think people lead with that.
I don't think they do, but I think in early on in the in the dating stage, I'm the type of person, I'm asking questions because I kind of want to know if we align, if we're on the same page, we want the same things. So you don't have to tell me like, oh, I got $100,000 in debt, but just you saying like, I have some debt. I would like to get out of this debt before I would like to get out of this debt within this time frame. That's somebody that has a plan.
And
So
So
I was
and
about
I
to say,
do agree with that. My only rebuttal to that is, what I'm saying is, you don't necessarily have to go into full detail to let someone know you're not ready. If someone says they're not ready financially, you should believe them. You know what I mean? It's
sure,
not,
right.
he shouldn't have to plead his case on why he feels he's not ready.
Oh,
right,
That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
right,
Oh, absolutely. If you're not ready, you're not ready. And a woman has to accept that for what it is and say, okay, you're either going to choose to wait around till he's ready. Me personally, I'm not. Or you're going to choose to say, hey, you're going to find somebody who is ready for the things that you're ready for.
Right.
Something like that.
one,
I personally think that this is the reason we talk about this every week. People need to go in and figure out what the other person's intentions are, because it's obvious he's not ready for the same thing she's ready, and that conversation needs to be had early on. I know they talked about this last night on Lapeep Let's Talk, but it's important for you guys to be on the same page, because what it sounds like to me is he's going to waste your time.
Yeah,
If
it's
he's not ready, he knows he's not ready.
or she wants her time to be wasted if she's still pushing. If the man says
Exactly. So it
so,
needs to be communicated.
because
Absolutely.
sometimes people get the cup. Sometimes because women don't have to ask, and this is something that my mother taught me. Because, and I want to state my point. Sometimes because women don't have to ask, do you want to get married? In other words, break the big question, right? It's on the man to be like, to propose. In other words, right? That a lot of women are with men who they know they would never marry. They know this, and but they get to hide behind because they not the person that has to propose. And when they finally get rid of him, or whatever the case may be, because some people are just placement holders for others, whether I agree with that or not, but some people are just placement holders for others. And and then when she get rid of him, she could say, well, he wasn't man. I wanted to give him, he wasn't serious enough for me, in the whole 9 yards. But in reality, sometimes these women really knows, like, she ain't really have nothing serious, like, or wasn't even thinking life long term with him. In other words, he wasn't even thinking long term with him. But I was about to say this, bro, that um it does the number. I'm a retired financial advisor. I know people who make over $100,000. They broke. They live check to check. They're bad with money. And I know people who make $40,000, but they live better than people who make over $100,000. The number really doesn't matter. Are you stable to take care of yourself? Are you competent? In other words, right? And a competent person or a competent man, right? He don't have to be making a whole bunch of money, but he know how to invest the money that he has. He know how to put away the money that he has. He spend less than what he spend less, but he earn a lot, or
earns less and spends less.
Yes, that's right. He spends less, he earns less, but he spends less, right? He know how to move. And we really be talking, and a lot of these women saying, "Oh, I make more money than my man," as sometimes it only be a good $5,000 to $15,000 gap. You still in the same tax bracket, love. It's not like she's making a whole bunch of money and he just don't bring in no income at all. A lot of times they still in the same tax bracket. And so why not work together? See, communication. I think a lot of our sisters is getting out of the process of working with your man. If you trying to have an idea of being and wanting to have children, and I think any woman that's starting to have children, she needs to be in a secure environment where she can give her mind. Now, don't even really have to worry about finance. But before you bring a child in, work with your man so y'all can be put in a position to that when you do, or when you become pregnant, or when your child is 1 and 2 years old, you're not worrying about finance. Y'all work something together so where y'all financially stable, where he can do the bulk of the part until your children get to said age that y'all think is appropriate for if you truly want to work on your career. Because I don't think that you need to curb your career. If you truly love your career, you can go back to your career, but work together. You understand what I'm saying? So the number for me is not really a number. It's about how much a person actually invests and save. More investment than me for me.
So I think you made a point, just because like I've shared this before, but at one point in my life I did date a guy that made significantly less than me, and he was in a different tax bracket than I was. But he and we'd gone to high school together. We were cool. And that was something he was insecure about. But by the time our relationship ended, I want to say he was probably making just as much, if not more, than I was at that point in time. So like, you do have a point where like, and I said that to say he actually taught me a lot about, probably more than anyone else I've ever been with, about financial literacy, about trading. Like I did go into the relationship already with, information about, like, I already had a portfolio at that point, but we started doing day trading together. We started coming up with other streams of income. Like we just had like the mindset of just building each other up. So yeah, it definitely, there can be guys that are high income earners or high earners that just don't have that mentality, because they feel like they've already achieved that, but they're not really enjoying it. And then there are men that do have that are making average salaries that save more money than high income earners. So I do agree with that point for sure.